Well, they're not in a waiting room, but they're on Zoom.
All right, welcome everybody. Welcome everybody to the special board meeting, Thursday, October 25th, 2023 at 6 p.m. I'd like to start the meeting with call to or the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, roll call starting with Scarlett.
Scarlett Cantley.
Mary Viator.
Keith Giordano.
Elizabeth Accomando.
Michael Johnson.
Betty Argue. I'm sorry. Tricia Farrell. Sorry.
Burgess Hanson. Also have Carrie Nelson with Information Technology. And I believe that, making sure, yeah, I have no other staff on Zoom.
All right, thank you. And starting off with presentations from Ruben Turnbull and Associates. In person, we have Ms. Jody Davidson.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm up?
Yes,
Oh,
go
okay,
ahead. You're
hello.
up.
Well, thank you very, very much for inviting me and my firm to be here today. Like your chairman said, my name is Jody Davidson, and I represent Ruben Turnbull and Associates. We are a lobbying firm, mostly based in Tallahassee. We have a team of 14 who focus on Tallahassee legislature and the governor's office. I do Tallahassee work, but I happen to be one of the few people who were a bit of a blended model. I started off my career when I was young in the Florida legislature. I worked there in the late 90s, and then I left and I went to Washington, D.C. and worked in Congress for 16 years. For 4 years, I worked in Washington for members of Congress and actually for appropriations committees. So my background is in appropriations. I left Washington and about the early 2000s, and came back home, as we were talking about before. I'm a South Florida girl. Wanted to be closer to my family, and I took a job with Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I ran all of her offices. I was her Florida chief of staff, managed the staff, and it was my job really to take care of the constituents. And our constituents were really twofold. Our constituents were obviously, the 700,000 residents that lived inside what was first the 20th Congressional District and then the 23rd. But also the 27 municipalities and the 2 counties that were in our district and all the improvement districts and the drainage districts. I was really their point of contact to deal with the appropriations process, but also to deal with all of the executive agencies on issues of water and transportation and all the things that, make up the infrastructure and, keep our cities moving and growing. So it was a wonderful job. I left in 2017 after I had enough of the politics, which is really not what I originally signed up for, but it's part of, what Congress is today. And decided I really wanted to get back to what I loved, which is building and working with constituents. I mean, now I have clients which are very similar to constituents. So my background is very strong in appropriations, specifically in infrastructure, dealing with the Army Corps of Engineers, South Florida Water Management District, even Coast Guard resiliency issues, all types of issues. But I decided to join the Ruben Turnbull firm because I have a strong background in Congress and really on the Democratic side, let's put it that way, because I worked for the Congresswoman for so long. But I realized that in order to really help, my clients, my constituents, I needed to be part of a bigger process and align myself with people who had relationships that I, personally didn't have. And that's what drew me to Ruben Turnbull and Associates. They are very strong in Tallahassee. They're strong on both sides of the aisle, but really the current climate in Tallahassee is pretty single-sided. And they had excellent relationships with key leaders from the governor's office, you know, to the executive agencies, to, you know, chairmen, chairwomen of all different types of committees, down to, you know, the even freshman members of the legislature. So I wanted to make sure to round myself out enough to make sure that I could, you know, be kind of a one-stop shop and take care of everything. And I'm really glad that I made that decision, because that's what Reuben Turnbull and Associates is. We all work together, we work as a team. I mean, really, you get the entire firm and the entire knowledge of the firm when you hire us. I know the other folks who are up today, they're actually friends of mine. We're all friends. We all help each other. Sometimes we even collaboratively represent clients together. And I represent clients with both of the other firms. And I have to tell you, no matter what you choose today, you can't go wrong. You really have an excellent choices before you, so you're not gonna make the wrong decision. But I think that what should probably guide you is, you know, who you wanna work with, right? Who you're comfortable with, who you think can help you now and understand your vision of where you are right now, and then help you also have conversations about where do you want to be, and kind of build that path and build your relationships. This is a state contract, obviously, but government doesn't work just that way, right? And that's where I've become, I usually talk about myself, but that's where I've become a benefit to this firm, is that because of my background with the federal government, most of this money that we're talking about grants, if we're talking about funding streams, you know, when we're talking about infrastructure, it starts with the federal government and it comes down in different ways. So to understand what the parameters of that funding is and who's able to apply and who's not, and kind of, you know, maybe make changes at that level, and then anticipate that money before it comes to the state level, so that you can plan for it and either be ahead of the other person or figure out a path to make sure that you're in line and you're not just responding to things, but you know that they're coming. So I think that's really what sets us apart from the other firms. But again, you know, I'm not disparaging the other two. They really are excellent, and you're not going to make a bad decision. I think it's just going to be about who gets you and understands you, and who's going to handle what you need now and take you where you need to go.
Through the chair.
Mhm.
Couple questions.
Sure.
You said that you're a South Florida girl,
Yes.
but you live in Tallahassee now, or
No.
are you down here?
So I live in Parkland with my family, just, you know, one city south of the border. I spend time in Tallahassee. I go up fairly often. I also go to Washington. But we do have a dedicated team in Tallahassee who lives there all the time. Our managing partner, who's Heather Turnbull, who's a dear friend of mine, she lives in Tallahassee, as do 4 others of our team. And the 4 others that live up there really are experts when it comes to not only the legislature, but we have 2 in particular who came straight from the DeSantis administration and really have key relationships. We recruited them out, but have key relationships with staff and with the leaders themselves in each of the executive agencies.
Do you represent any other special taxing districts?
We do not. We do, and you know, I'm so glad thank you for asking that question. We do have some municipal clients, but we're really very choosy about who we'll choose. And the reason that we do that is that it's hard to have all your eggs in one basket and keep going to legislators with this laundry list, the same legislator who's chair of, let's say, you know, the Interior Water Resources Committee, and go to them with a list of 27 municipalities that need the same thing, and then you're kind of having to make Sophie's choice about who you're going to choose to send to that chairperson.
So not the
Sure.
I don't know, client privilege or whatever, but who are some of your larger clients that you
Sure.
represent?
Sure, absolutely. So municipality-wise, we represent the city of Fort Lauderdale. We represent Highland Beach. We actually team with another firm that's interviewing today with the city of Miramar. On the federal side, and I don't know if this is, you know, too much information, I represent the city of Sunrise, North Miami Beach, and North Bay Village. We also happen to have, and actually I just helped them with a federal appropriation, even though they're a state client, but, you know, we can help them, so we do. We represent some areas in the Tampa Bay area. It's Brooksville, city of Brooksville.
And you do a lot of appropriations, so like one of our issue is we need a lot of money appropriations.
We do,
so
yes.
You do a lot of that.
A lot of appropriations, that's exactly. And we also represent, you asked for governments, like we represent the Broward Sheriff's Office, so even though, you know, it's not a municipality, it's still a government.
Thank you.
But again, we're mindful of not having too much in one area. So you'll be our first special district. I can't say that they've never had one, because I've only been here, you know, since 2020. But we
Well,
certainly don't right now.
If you don't know about special taxing districts, the one that was in the news most lately is Reedy Creek, which is Disney
Yeah,
World.
yeah. So I helped pass a special taxing district in Broward County as the Children's Services Council, pro bono. I helped them the first time around when they were looking to go out and become an independent taxing district, and then the law sunsetted, and they had to go back out for approval, so I jumped back in, and it was all pro bono, and ran the campaign, and it was reauthorized for them to have a $500,000.
So you're offering us pro bono?
I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to offer that today, but I'm
definitely
certainly
give you
willing to
points.
entertain any kind of conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So my question is, you mentioned that you're choosy about your clients,
Yes, ma'am.
and so obviously you're here, you're choosing us. So can you tell me why you would choose us, why you would want to work for
Yeah.
Indian Trail?
Well, it's really exciting to have an opportunity to build something from the ground up. I mean, I wouldn't say it's exactly the same, but in Broward County, right around 2000, the county decided to go out of the business of providing services to unincorporated areas. And there were many at the time. So that meant that all these unincorporated areas, pockets, they needed to either incorporate into existing municipalities or create their own. So I was able to work with a lot of those municipalities, or not that I created any of those, I certainly did not, but I was there at their infancy for all of their needs, figuring out if they're gonna build their own infrastructure, are they gonna, rely on other municipalities, and finding ways for them to, build their own pump stations and find money for roads and build sewers and take care of, canals, all different types of things. So this is exciting, this is new, and while we do have, a handful of municipalities that we represent at the state level, a lot of those that I mentioned were federal, we don't have anything like this. And we have really key relationships with members of the legislature, chair people of the legislature, who have these committees, and we do a lot of things for them, and we have friendships, and it's really exciting to be able to bring them opportunities, to fund something from the ground up.
One other question I have is, I was just reading an article that Governor DeSantis has actually refused some key dollars from the federal government. They are related to infrastructure, water, all things that Florida needs. So do you think that there's, I know that this Florida Association of Special Districts and the National Association have been working at a federal level to get special districts included in funding, because right now it's counties, municipalities, special districts are excluded. So they've been working on that, and there's been some changes, but they're finding that there's a lot of definitions that need to be changed. But my question is, do you see the ability to work on that issue and getting funds, perhaps from the federal government, that would help a special district with the infrastructure needs, which, we have needs that exceed most of the cities in Palm Beach County, because we've been a special district for so long, and we're as large as we are, and have the population that we have, and we have all of these I will just say extenuating circumstances impacting our community. So our needs are beyond what I've seen or understand other areas having. So do you think, that's kind of a lot there, but do you think that you have the ability or will have the ability to help with that at the federal level as well?
Yes, absolutely. There's a couple of things that I would do there. Number one, I mean, I would certainly want to set up some meetings with the Department of the Interior. You know, Department of Environmental Protection falls underneath that, and there's quite a bit of funding that's available through grants directly through the Department of the Interior. There's also, we should be talking with your members of Congress. Members of Congress can file their own, you want to call it, you know, appropriations requests. Last year they were only given 15 requests, which is, it was that way the year previously, but it's kind of new, and they've limited the buckets that you're able to apply from. But Department of Interior was definitely one of the buckets. So we'll need to really delve into what some of your projects are, because some of them will have different kinds of matches. I don't have a crystal ball to know exactly what they're going to put out next year, which will be sometime in the spring. But we can probably expect that it'll be fairly, well, I don't know, now we don't have a speaker, so we'll see. A month ago I would have said it'll be similar to what it was, because Congress runs in 2-year cycles.
Right.
So we certainly should right now, because that's all we have to go off of, take a look at all of the buckets that were funded last time, review all of the projects that you want to fund, and start trying to figure out and have conversations with your members of Congress, have conversations with the county, have conversations with the South Florida Water Management District, because the federal government wants to hear that we're part of a collaborative effort, right? They want to hear that we're part of a larger master plan. And going through what our list is with these other, you know, regional agencies is going to be very important to getting grant funding, as well as getting members of Congress to line item appropriate us. So yes, is the short answer is there's absolutely opportunities. We just got to get out there and knock on doors. When members of Congress only have 15, and we'll see what that is, because we're going to get a new speaker, but when they only have 15 projects that they can choose, we need to be out there early. We need to be bringing them out here and showing them who we are, and showing them what the projects are, and showing them what an impact they have, not only to, you know, the area that you're serving right here, but let's use water as an example, right? Because I know water is of utmost importance to you. It's all connected, right? You know, it's all, we just basically move water around here, right? It's not like we're finding any new water. And if we talk about how what we're doing is cleaning the area, is, you know, putting back into the Biscayne and Floridian aquifers as clean, and solving the regional water problems, I think we have a really good chance of getting direct funding through a member, as well as grant funding from the agencies, but also through the counties and the other regional, let's use water, we could also talk about, you know, with the MPO, with transportation would be similar, getting their buy-in for dollars that are drawn down and sent to the state, because usually you need their buy-off first. So it's a lot of work to be done, but you know, I hope to be able to
So
help
you
you
could
with
get
it.
us some federal dollars bypassing DeSantis to us.
But let's not bypass. Let's get it all, right? I mean,
No,
let's,
but I mean, like Betty was saying, he didn't, Democrat, Republican.
Yeah.
When Obama was in office, he got all this money for infrastructure, and all the Republican governors said, we don't want your money. Same thing with expanded Medicaid. DeSantis didn't want to take the money, so
Right.
you're saying you can work with Washington DC and get the money flowing down here possibly?
that's right.
Okay.
Like, I'll give you an example. One of my municipalities is North Bay Village. I think population is about 8,000, so it's a very small city. And they are a 3-island city that was made in the Biscayne Bay. So water, you know, is a big issue for them. And a lot of the money that they needed for resiliency was meant for larger cities. So we went in, and this was very strategic, and we had conversations where we went through key members of Congress that were on, you know, those appropriations committees, and we worked to rewrite what the language was so that we can be included in it. And the good news is that they don't really send out like, you know, a news bulletin like, hey, everybody, now you're eligible. Like, we were ahead of that curve. I mean, eventually the League of Cities got wind of it, and it became, you know, more widely announced to smaller cities, which is a good thing because, you know, everybody should be able to compete. But those are the kinds of tactics that we can employ to be creative and figure out how do we, you know, jump ahead and use the, you know, the resources and the avenues that are out there. So the short answer is yes, but I also certainly wouldn't single out the state. There are many, many ways to get state funding. If the governor's refusing one stream of revenue, there's always other streams. And there's also, similar to what I spoke about with the federal process, there's the line item appropriations process at the state level, which absolutely we want to be going after. I mean, there's definitely money to be had by, you know, getting your individual members of the legislature to sponsor your project for, you know, X or projects, and taking that and going through the state appropriations process as well. So there's
How long has your company been in business?
So Bill Rubin is our chairman, and he began the firm in the 1980s. He worked for the governor of Florida in the 70s and 80s, and then worked in some of the executive agencies, and then founded his own firm. And he lives here in South Florida. He actually lives in Plantation, but he has a second home in Tallahassee.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hello, said Ms. Davison. So I'm not part of the board. I serve as their executive director. But earlier you spoke about legislative process for appropriation bills. Can you talk a little bit about how Reuben Turnbull would run a bill without necessarily going through the state senator or representative that may represent us
Sure.
in the district? in
Sure,
respective
absolutely.
districts?
So, well, first I'd want to sit down and really comb through your projects, right? Let's comb through them, let's see what you need, and I would ask you to rank them, right? What are your most important projects, right? And then we would take a look at what are the key committees that these projects are going to be sent to, and have conversations with the chairmen, chairwomen of those committees in both chambers, in the House and in the Senate, and talk to them. I mean, we have relationships with them already. Sometimes, let's just be totally candid, sometimes they'll kind of tell you, okay, so-and-so isn't really running a lot, and we're looking for them to, you know, be kind of an up-and-comer. Why don't you go ahead to them? And sometimes, just instinctively, we know that, right? And we know they don't have a lot really in their basket, let's say, you know, for one particular committee or another. So that's what we look for, is really, you know, avenues. We certainly would want to engage, even if they weren't the prime sponsor, you know, your individual state representative and your state senator. I mean, it would be a waste not to, but, you know, it is a political game, and you do have to understand who the players are and who's strong where and who's weak where. So we would need to take all of that into consideration in figuring out who's going to carry which projects and where they're going to go.
Okay. I'm going to ask one more. What's your firm's experience with local bills, whether it's incorporation or just running for us, like making a change to our enabling legislation or charter?
You know, that's a good question. I'm not sure that I know the answer to that. I'm not sure that I know the answer to that. I hate to say that, but
Well,
it's-
yeah, because
in
you're
my-
more on the appropriation side.
Yeah, in my you know, term here, I'm not aware of us actually running like a local bill or a charter bill or anything like that. But to be honest, we have such a myriad of issues that we handle. I mean, I haven't seen anything that we can't tackle. I mean, the truth is, we don't need to be experts on the subject matter at hand, right? We need to know enough to be able to know who to go to and how to explain it and how to move it around. But that's why it's important to have, you know, the client with us and an educated client, so they can really be the experts in but this is a political process. The rules yesterday are not the rules today. And really, it's who you know, and we know everybody. Not to be cocky, but again, this is why I joined the firm.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Through the chair. But you did mention earlier, getting back with what Burgess just said, you had mentioned earlier that you were around when Broward passed the laws that every unincorporated area had to either be incorporated or annexed in.
Correct.
So that
That-
is kind of, I think, what
Oh,
Burgess is saying,
I'm
because
sorry.
we're looking at possibly incorporating, because if not, we're being annexed in.
Right, okay, so I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question. I'm not aware of the firm, you know, Reuben Turnbull and Associates, at least not in my tenure working for them, you know, carrying a bill like that. But if you're asking me about my experience, 2000 was really the deadline for when cities needed to make a choice whether they were going to incorporate or not incorporate. And at the time, I worked for a state representative named Nan Rich, and that is all the way out in West Broward. So that meant that all the cities that were out there that were incorporating, which were part of her district, were Southwest Ranches, City of Weston. Then there were all these pockets that were around there too, that some of them incorporated into the town of Davie. Actually, a lot of them incorporated into the town of Davie. And there was also Pembroke Park and West Park, which were not in the district, but all of that was happening at the same time. So back then, I had worked with those cities. Nan had actually carried some of those bills. A lot of that had to go out to the voters, and it really was a kind of a quilt of what was happening, leading up to the voters being put on the ballot, which way do you want to go? And then after that happened, we filed the legislation for those cities. And I was there for all of it. I didn't leave her until 2002. And we carried all of that for Southwest Ranches, and not for Davie because that was separate. They were annexed in there, and for the city of Weston.
Because that's a big thing on our plate right now, that letting the voters decide if they want to incorporate or pretty much be swallowed up by
Yeah.
other cities, so.
I remember it well.
So that's what we, big on our plate right now, so we need some good representation there to help us move forward whatever way we wanna go.
Yeah, and I remember a lot of those conversations on the forefront before, you know, by the time we were filing the bill, those decisions were made. The voters had made their decision. But a lot of what we were helping them deal with was infrastructure, right? Where are you getting your water from? Are you going to, you know, rely on the city of Sunrise, which is at the, you know, in that region, or Sunrise and Pembroke Pines, were the two major suppliers of water and sewer and all those things, but trying to help them figure out which way they were going to go, and then secure the funding to be able to, excuse me, you know, build the infrastructure, build the pump stations, you know, all of it.
I have one more question. I'm sorry, I forgot. It just
I
popped
drove
up.
all the way here. I'm here. So
Yeah,
that's
so,
me.
we usually, as a board, they will go to Tallahassee. I go as a staff person. When they have meetings, you know, can you tell us what Reuben Turnbull would do as far as scheduling, not only with who represents us, but with some of those key committee chairs? And also, will there be someone from your firm, whether it be you or whoever, sitting with us in those meetings? So,
Okay, that's a good question. Thank you. So we really take an all-hands-on-deck approach, but you will have one person who's really assigned as the lead, you know, for the district. So let's say it's me, right? Just as an example, I would of course travel to Tallahassee when I know that you're coming up there, and basically be with you the entire time. If there's a reason that I need to step out, another team member will, you know, jump in and take those meetings. But you know, we'll do a lot of pre-planning with you, right? Let's talk about everything. What do we have coming up? Where are we in the process with all these bills? Are we about to, you know, we're in our first committee, our second committee? Are we not moving at all? Like, who do we need to go see? We're going to go visit the members who are on the committees of all of the different bills where, you know, where we're traveling, in addition to going and visiting with committee chairs. I also would want to take the opportunity, though, while you're up there, to go and meet with the agency, you know, with the agencies. I mean, I would very strongly be advising you to go after state grants. So let's go sit down and let's go talk with, you know, all of the different agencies, right? And Department of Transportation, Department of Environmental Protection, and say, what's coming up? What's on the horizon? Here's who we are. Here, you know, here's who we serve. what do you have that's, that you're gonna notice within the next year? And who is the person that we can contact to have conversations about what's coming down the pike before it even happens, so that we can prepare and we can plan. So we would spend a lot of time. So basically, the short answer is, you would have someone with you at all times, but we would do a lot of planning on the front end to make sure that you're not just going up there and sitting with your state rep and your state senator and then, sitting at Clyde's and having lunch all day. We could do that too, but, but we're going up there to work. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm done. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi.
What about working also with the county? You know, we do a lot of things. We have somebody specifically that is our liaison, our county lobbyist, but the county has their own lobbyists that are going up there. Do you communicate with them so we're both on the same path, going for the same thing? And that's where we could talk about matching dollars and things like that. So how is your relationship, being that you guys are so based down in Broward more so and in Tallahassee, with our county lobbyists?
So that's a great question. So, I have lots of friends at the county commission. Todd Von Laren is a very good friend of mine.
Love Todd.
Yes, we were aides together, and he's usually, not always, but he's usually one of my first calls in Palm Beach, kind of like, okay, here's what I need, who do I call? I also rely heavily on the members of Congress and people who had my job before. They know this area backwards and forwards. You have Lois Frankel, you have Brian Mast, and I know their directors very, very, very well, and they know this area. I don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? Let's ask them, who do we go to? Who's the key person? It's about, knowing how to navigate. But yes, the county is an extremely important partner on so many different levels. We were talking about some of, the funding that goes to the state. They want to know that you're not just, what you're doing isn't just, even though it is there to serve your residents, but it has a regional impact, and that we're built into the regional response of what's going on. So yes, we would absolutely need to be meeting with all types of county officials, even county commissioners. Let's have them advocating for us, right? This is their territory too. This is their district as well. So let's make sure they understand what our priorities are. They're connecting us with the right people, and when they're going to Tallahassee and they're going to Washington and everywhere else, and they're attending MPO meetings, they're attending South Florida Water Management District meetings, that they understand what we need, and our agenda is their agenda.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Did we, discussing like fees and structures and stuff like that, how do we go about that as far as for someone of our, realm that you don't really have anybody else in, special district wise?
That is a great question. I know we normally, usually fees on the municipal side are much lower than they are with regular, business clients. I don't know exactly, where we're coming in here. We're certainly open to negotiation. You don't take clients like this for the money. This is a business, and obviously, we're here to get paid, but we're certainly open and negotiable, and want to see where this fits with your budget and how we can work together on that. So,
Through the chair. I just want to be clear. What we're doing tonight is just like interviewing. If the board decides that we want to move forward with somebody, we'd be negotiating a contract after. Okay.
and so we're open is the
Yeah.
answer to that. And that's
I just
oftentimes
wanted to-
how it goes.
Because I didn't see anything either, so.
Yeah.
Well, she said she would negotiate pro bono
Other services.
Be
And really,
very
and honestly,
careful.
that's almost what the federal stuff is, right? What we're talking about here is a state contract, but there's a bigger picture here at play. Government doesn't just work in a single lane. It's a comprehensive project, and you need to find comprehensive solutions. And I know, again, all the firms are terrific, and you're not gonna go wrong. You're gonna get what you need. But that is what sets us apart.
kind of like some of your comments, like we haven't really thought outside the box a lot. I don't think we've thought outside the box enough as far as like going up to not Tallahassee, but Brian Bass or Lois Frankel or other people that are elected in Washington over here, and when we go to Tallahassee, not just go and talk to our representatives, but the agencies that work with giving us money. So I like some of those things you said.
Thank you. And you don't always have to go up to Washington. And the reality is they'll come to us, right? I mean, going up is fun, and I'd be more than happy to hold your hand and walk you around Washington. It's awesome.
I've been there, done that.
Yeah, and it's fun going up there and advocating. But we should invite them here. Let's let them see it. Let's let them see what you're doing. These are their constituents too. You're their constituent. And at the same time, they'll know. I mean, we can set up Zoom meetings with federal agencies.
So if we were to hire you, you would approach, like Brian Mass talks a lot about water. You
Yes, he
would
does.
go and get him to come here and
Sure.
tour?
Absolutely.
He actually has had a tour of the district a couple years ago.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. I was just at his office last week, actually. In Washington, no, but not here. But yes, we should be inviting them out here. Listen, when I worked for, Congressman Wasserman Schultz, it's not a one and done. You don't just check the box once. I mean, cities grow, they change. They, districts grow, they change. You need to be going on a revolving basis.
Thank you. I don't think I have anything else.
No.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
really a
Thank you.
pleasure. And
Nice meeting you.
Yes, nice meeting all of you.
Use your GPS to get home, otherwise you'll be driving.
I think I'm gonna
around.
take 441. I can just go straight. It's a straight shot.
It's the best way.
Yeah, okay. And avoid all the traffic. And I want to come in the daytime so I can stop at all the farms. I don't usually go quite this far north, but now I know where to go. Thank you so much. Really
Thank
was a
you.
pleasure.
Thank
Appreciate
you. Thank you.
the opportunity.
Thank you.
Do I leave? Like,
Stay.
I didn't know if I needed to stay
You're
or I'm
released.
allowed to stay.
Did,
Sometimes they kick you
did
out.
you give your business card to
Absolutely.
Burgess for us?
Yes, yes, yes.
Just through Chair, while we're waiting for the next one, because he kind of jumped right into the water. I was going to give a brief statement at the beginning just to say tonight what we're hoping is if you just give staff, meaning legal, and me the direction on who you would like us to develop an agreement similar to what we had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Similar to what we had with Ramba and Associates, so there really isn't,
Right.
So this is not the final night. We'll probably bring it back hopefully on the 25th, because I don't think you want
Right.
to wait too much longer.
No,
But-
right, to
You
get.
can't, yeah.
But to answer that question, and so also tried to bring you 3 firms that are heavy hitters in Tallahassee. Some of them may have more, but, and sorry I jumped in and asked some questions, but I thought those were relevant for what you're looking at.
Definitely.
So, believe, and also just for the record, I do have experience. I've worked with Reuben Turnbull and Associates. It was actually not personally, but for a municipality. We were their client, and I also have experience with Trip Scott Erickson. I was not their client, but worked with them representing other clients in the same municipality and county, so you're aware. And they're also very good, and they, I believe, also represent, I think, from time to time, Palm Beach County, but that's something for them to explain to you. So I think they're up next. I believe we have Robbie on Zoom.
Yes, and through the chair, there's also Chris Smith. He had to call in, so Carrie's going to allow him to talk because he's on the attendee side where he's calling in.
Yeah, and Chris Smith is a former state senator, and he's also was in leadership on the Senate side. So,
Correct. Good evening.
wrong one, I think,
Yeah, that's Capital
Oh.
City.
yeah, you want Trip Scott.
I got you.
All right, there we go. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Cool. Before we get in, I just want to make sure Chris is on as well. I think I see him on here.
Carrie?
Is he allowed to speak? Are you saying that he's on the telephone as well?
I believe he's on.
He is on the phone. Oh, did we lose him?
or he
I
lost
think I
us.
lost him.
No. All right, well, if you wanna start, and if he calls back in, we'll make sure it gets connected through.
Absolutely, that'd be great. Well, thank you very much for working, with your entire team, Scarlett. Thank you for the flexibility on setting this up and making sure that we're able to run this okay. My name is Robbie Holroyd. I have the privilege of serving as a government relations consultant up here in Tallahassee, actually, with the Trip Scott Erick's consulting team. So again, thank you for the flexibility of allowing us to present via Zoom. We'll go to the next slide, please.
Well,
Technical difficulties.
technical
No, I
difficulties.
believe, Chris Smith is back on.
Oh, no, we're talking about me.
We're talking about.
We're talking about me.
Well, while we're getting that going, I want to echo some of the sentiments that Jody said. You know, you've got three fantastic teams, and in fact, you know, a lot of the things that while Jody was presenting, I'm smiling to myself because so many of those things that she's working on, we worked on together. So you'll hear some overlap on that. But really, fortunately, the folks that you have presenting today, all good friends, and like she said, everyone just offers different strengths, different values, and whoever the district chooses to go with, you really can't go wrong. So I wanted to make sure absolutely that's clear, and send love to my friends down there. So today, what I wanted to keep it kind of simple and make it really more about discussion. I really want to introduce you all to our team, share some of our experiences, talk about our approach, and then talk about our relationships more broadly. And we'll go into the next slide, we'll go right into it. Next slide, sorry. Yep. So here's we'll go to the pictures. Thank you. So this is our team. We've got myself, who will be serving as the team lead for this particular project. We've got Chris Smith, like shared, former senator, former House member, served in both Broward and Palm Beach counties in this district, was served as both minority leader in both the House and the Senate, and is somebody who is very respected by both sides of the aisle. He most recently served on the Constitutional Revision Commission, appointed by then Senate President Bill Galvano, I believe. Our team lead and managing partner for more broadly is Candace Ericks. Candace has been serving as a government relations professional for about 25 years. Candace started working with her father, Dave, and has, as was shared previously, actually represents Palm Beach County. And her father are still working with their organization that Lauren works with as well. But about 7-8 years ago, Candace joined up with Trip Scott, which is the second oldest law firm in Broward County, and to create Trip Scott Erick's, which serves as the government relations arm of the Trip Scott law firm. Lauren is our absolute anchor of our team. I cannot say enough incredible things about her. She is our appropriations guru. She knows local governments inside and out. She is an absolute champion, and we would all completely be lost without her. And look forward to getting to meet her soon. Next slide. So I want to run this briefly. Our Chris, former state legislator, decades of experience. We'll move on to the next one as well. One more. All right, so I wanted to go a little bit over our experience, and I'll start with myself. So prior to joining Candace, I actually served as the Government Affairs Director for the Children's Services Council in Broward County that Jody shared a little bit about earlier, where I had the opportunity to work with not just Broward County, but the Children's Services Councils all across the state, and had the opportunity to work with those organizations and learn really in a hands-on manner the difference between independent, dependent districts, working on there's crossovers and understanding different funding mechanisms, and also fighting hands-on every single day for preservation of special districts, making sure that we can maintain autonomy, and that the intended purpose of the creation of the districts can continue to pursue. Our team also works with Tyndall Hammock, a drainage district down in Broward County. Their purposes, they're not asking for funding. Their purpose is just maintaining and making sure that the conditions and rules and oversight being pushed by the legislature are not too onerous on special districts, and then we can make sure that the districts can persevere. We represent both Broward County and Palm Beach County, and by we, on Palm Beach County, I mean specifically Lauren Jackson and Candace Eriks. They are the only two that work on the Palm Beach County contract. However, we work really closely with them hand in hand. City government, we represent about, I'm sorry, someone jumping in? No, okay, I'll keep going. So city governments, we represent 8 cities, 8 municipalities in Broward County. We have City of Parkland. We also work on the Fort Lauderdale contract, Pembroke Pines, Davie, Town Davie, Lauderdale by the Sea, Coral Springs, Coconut Creek. So our focus and understanding of local government is really deep. Many of those clients have been with Candace and, in our team for 15 years or so. So it's a deep-rooted experience that we have in working with local governments. Next slide, please. So there was one other piece that I want to talk about. I'm sorry, that I didn't, that I added on after I sent this over to you, Charles, so I apologize. One of the things that we really do work on, particularly in Palm Beach County, and that we're incredibly proud of, is our work with 2 other organizations. One that's serving serves the entire Tri-County region with Tri-Rail, SFRTA. In addition, we also work with the Palm Beach County Food Bank in Palm Beach County. Working with the Palm Beach County Food Bank has absolutely been incredible. And we've actually, through the Palm Beach County Food Bank myself, I've got to work with your local lobbyist, Jeff Sluggett, quite well. We've had amazing successes for the Palm Beach County Food Bank in bringing in state dollars, bringing up state contracts that were federal pass-through dollars. And then Jeff, as you all know, does amazing work in working with the Palm Beach County Commission that we work in the supportive role with him at the food bank. So it's been an incredible process. One of the things that we work on with them and that we're excited to launch this year is actually getting our legislative platform into the Palm Beach County Days packet, which is really, really exciting. So the first week of session, Palm Beach County's got it unlocked, and this year's legislative agenda, Casey and her team were fantastic in including it. Will include the food bank's provisions in there. So our talk about our experience about local bills. While I worked at the Children's Services Council, we ended up putting forward a local bill, ended up not moving forward onto it, so it went through the entire process there. Very familiar with that process. Our team has been working, has experience in working with municipalities on creating annexations into cities, which I know is that's the battle of what you're trying to fight with incorporation right now. But having that understanding is critical for our team to be able to assist you. We have a robust team in appropriations. We have a great outline, great approach that I'll talk about in a little bit. But like I said, Lauren Jackson really our anchor on the appropriations project. And similar to Ruben, you'll hear from any of the groups, you're trying to be intentional about the groups that you're working with from a geographical and policy area. And so we're very intentional about how we work with those folks and where we're choosing to work with partners to make sure that we're not overloading particular silos. The last part is agency funding opportunities. We've been very successful in working with, as I mentioned, with Department of Agriculture and getting funding into Palm Beach County. We are also working very closely with some of our local governments, the municipalities on working on DEP grants. And I know that you guys have been very successful in some of the recreational trail programs, the FERDAP programs, and I think I'm not sure if it was Florida Community Trust, but I know that you've secured significant funding there. And I think it's really important to not just look for what's immediately available, but also work with DEP and those other folks to be able to see where can we cap out. There's limits of FERDAP grants and how many you can have open, same for FCT, same for recreational trails, but it's working with your local folks to figure out what's the limits, where can we do and make sure we're maximizing those dollars. Same goes across the board for Department of Transportation, and same with Division of Emergency Management. With the unfortunate benefit of all of the storms we've been having is the realization of a lot of the hazard mitigation grant programs that are now available. Those are great opportunities for localities to be able to access funds. Let's go to the next slide, please. One more, thank you. So our approach is pretty strategic. Where one of the things that we do that we're really proud of is that we really try to imagine ourselves as an extended arm of our client's organization. We sit down with our clients and making sure that we're meeting with, bless you, with us. We're sitting down with the entire staff. We're sitting down with board members that deemed appropriately to make sure that we're getting a full understanding of what the overall vision of your organization is and what the long-term plan of what you're trying to accomplish. And so within that, we're going to look to see where do your needs meet opportunities and make sure that we're positioning you in the best way possible to make sure that we can be as successful as possible. So after we sit down and we do our planning session, we start the drafting process. And we start with sitting down, hands with you all, going through appropriation forms, developing talking points, developing policy papers that we're going to make sure that not just available for us, but assisting the legislators who are sponsoring our appropriations or our policy or any of the local bills that we're working with. The boots on the ground. So I should have mentioned before, but like I said, I'm based up here in Tallahassee. Grew up in the city of Coral Springs, so I'm down there about a week a month out of the year, every month. And the rest of our team, Chris, Candace, Lauren, are all based in Fort Lauderdale. However, once those committee weeks and sessions roll around, we get lots of windshield time. Not so many airline miles at this point, but maybe when JetBlue gets going. But traveling back and forth, our team physically relocates to Tallahassee to make sure that we're there at all times. We'll go to the next slide. One more, thank you. So I want to talk about from a broader perspective, from leadership. So within the House and the Senate, obviously a lot of this is driven by speakers of the House, senior members of their teams and their circles. Our team is very proud to have great relationships with not just both presiding officers and the teams, but also some of their senior members of the appropriation chairs, as well as the different subcommittee appropriations chairs as well, going down to act appropriations. And what's important is because our team is, one of the things we take great pride in is that during election season, we're hitting the road, we're driving around the state, we're knocking on doors for all the candidates, and we're spending time with a lot of the committee chairs, no matter if it's Pensacola or all the way down to Key West. It really gets an opportunity for us we love it because we get to meet the folks, spend time with them, and then also get to see a lot of our great state. So because of that, we have established relationships with all these chairs, which actually serves our clients well. As I mentioned with the Palm Beach delegation, we actually were very successful in securing not just one, but two appropriations for the Palm Beach County Food Bank and working with Representative Rick Roth and also Senator Willie Berman. We had great successes there. I believe in your area, it's still Rep. Roth's district, but you're also moving to Senator Harrell's district as well, if not completely. Our team has deep-seated relationships with both of those folks, and we were very proud, particularly last year, of the success that we were having working with Representative Roth and bringing those funds home. Our team also works really closely, as I mentioned, with Casey Denny, Palm Beach County's Legislative Affairs Director, as well as Vic Nolan, the Executive Director of the delegation. So beyond that, and just to almost wrap it up, within the Governor's Office, our team really focuses on our relationships. That's why I have the opportunity to live up here in Tallahassee. But I'm meeting with folks with the Office of Policy and Budget, meeting with Governor's staff internally on PASA level, and also continue to work with folks on the agency side as well. So it's absolutely critical for us to be able to lay the groundwork early, make sure we're in constant communication so we can achieve the success for our clients. So with that, I believe that's my presentation, and the next slide we can go to questions. Yay! Cool.
I'll ask the same question that I asked Jody, Ms. Davidson. Why would you choose to work for us?
So I am oh, sorry. Sorry, you're jumping in. I having spent 4 or 5 years working in special districts, I believe in the unique power and the unique capabilities of special districts. I'm particularly interested in, sorry, I see my reflection on this.
Felt like MTV.
Thank you.
You're a Disney fan.
Picture.
Yeah.
There you go. So I love special districts. See behind me, my sister painted, I'm a big Disney fan. I know that's an unpopular opinion up here in Tallahassee, but I'm a big Disney fan. I love the establishment of special districts. When I first started working in the process and discovered, back when I was working in the state agency, I was at the state archives one day, and just for fun, I pulled the Reed Creek Improvement District authorizing act and nerded out and enjoyed reading it. I just believe that especially a district such as Indian Trail that's really focused on not just providing basic water services, not just road services, but looking at drainage and also looking at parks. I think it's an incredible and unique opportunity. Look, there's, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it either. You know, the process of incorporation is going to be a very difficult road. We've not had any new cities that have been incorporated into Florida since 2017. I know just the north of y'all with Indian Town, and then just on the other side of y'all with Westlake. Those are the most recent incorporations that Florida's had. It's a difficult political appetite to cross that bridge, to make sure that the legislature fully understands that it's a really unique situation where you're at right now. And land's at a premium, we know that in Florida across the board. I know with everything that's happening with GL Homes right now, it's potential for a unique opportunity for you guys to be able to make sure you're enhancing conservation and building all those other components into it. But I think that the way that the municipalities have really cherry-picked the valuable properties to take them off your roll, to set themselves up, to move it is a very difficult challenge. But I think the story's there. It's not a one-year process, I'll say that completely. This is not, an annexation is probably not a year away. It's a critical education piece that we have to be working hand in hand in developing collateral materials where we're explaining unique circumstances, developing the narrative, and really explaining to incoming leadership, appropriate chairs, so that they fully understand why this is unique. And in this preemption of home rule mentality that we're in right now, why it's important to actually create a new city. But I'll say it's just it's an exciting opportunity with everything y'all have going on.
Thank you.
Through the chair. I'd like to ask some of the same questions I asked Ms. Davison. Do you all have people down in South Florida to work with us?
Yes, sir. So, like I said, for purpose of our project, I'll serve as team lead, similar to Jody and her team. We're really fortunate that we have 4 really great folks on our team, not including myself. I'd like to. We've got 3 folks up there. Chris, who's I hear him jumping on the line as well. Chris is.
Right. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Chris, go ahead, take it away.
So briefly, good evening, everyone, and I apologize after spending 2 decades in Tallahassee. I try not to miss any events with my son, and my son is a starting lineman for Long High School, and they moved their game to 7 o'clock tonight. So I'm at Coconut Creek High School rooting on my son. But I did want to chime in. I am based in Florida, but I do work also in Riviera Beach. So I spent a lot of time on the Tri-Rail as well as on the other train line coming back and forth coming back and forth. So you will have people locally to work with you and to meet with you. Brightline, I mean, see some hats over on Brightline. So I'll be one of the people locally working with you.
How many
Yeah, so-
how many total employees do y'all have?
So on the government relations side, we've got there's 7 employees. We've got 4 that we've shared that'll really be the folks that are working day to day. In addition, we've got We've got former Senate President Jim Scott, who served in the 90s and 2000s, into 2000, was also a former county commissioner for our county. Jim splits his time between South Florida, comes to Tallahassee as well. But he's, when we call him up, he's the guy that we need. So our law firm's got about, like I said, our law firm down in South Florida, we've got about 40 or 50 attorneys down there. But your government relations team that will be serving you is going to be primarily 5 with 2 administrative supports.
So about 7 employees, okay. And you keep saying that you like special taxing districts, but the only ones I've heard you mention was the food bank and children's services. What other special taxing districts have you worked with?
Well, let me clarify that. The food bank's not a special taxing district, so I apologize if that came off the wrong way. That's an independent nonprofit. It's an independent food bank, so I apologize if that came off wrong. The Children's Services Council is the one that I was an employee of. Our teams work with, like I said, Tyndall Hammock. It's a soil water drainage district down in Davie. We've worked in partnership with North Springs Improvement District, Coral Springs Improvement District, and Sunshine Water Control District as well, on multitude of factors. Across the state, we work a lot with the Florida Professional Firefighters. So we work with fire districts out of Benita Springs, the folks over there. But in the Children's Services Council, like I said, in Palm Beach, Martin, St. Lucie, Jacksonville, Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Manatee County.
And you also mentioned appropriations. That's something big that we're in need of, is appropriations to help us with our community, since we don't get a lot of tax dollars, just non-ad valorem. So what do y'all do in regards to your appropriations that would help us?
Absolutely. So I know that last year, I believe y'all put in 3 appropriations with Senator Harrell, 2, I think, with Rep. Roth, if I'm not mistaken. And I know that 1 made it to the finish line, but ultimately got vetoed. So, look, there's no secret sauce to appropriations. There's no silver bullet in that. Each one's done in a unique, individualized manner. You've got you do have our secret weapon, Chris Smith, who's on the call, who goes in and works the last minute. You'll see a lot of appropriations on the sprinkle list at the end of the year with Senator Smith's name on it. He's very effective the way he does. But really, going back to our approach of what we talked about, it's got to start about, really, we like having our conversations, and most of our clients are at the place that we're almost ready to file appropriations right now. We've spent the previous 2 months talking about the opportunities. We could do this certainly in a condensed manner. Come down there, I'll be down there as well, and sitting down with you, your staff, whoever we deem appropriate, to make sure that we're looking at what are the different opportunities in your either capital improvement plans, your grow out plans, whatever it is, what are the immediate needs that you need to address, and figure out how do we frame those projects to meet the opportunities and make sure that we're set up in a good spot. The challenge that we're going to have with with water projects, and I have to go back and check to see if you're actually located in the VMAP, but there's challenges that the legislature has and the governor has shared of funding programs that have projects that are available through agency dollars. And it's important that we're making sure that we're crafting our message, crafting the narrative, and going to meet with Office of Policy and Budget staff, which is the governor's budget policy arms, meeting with state agencies that will be impacted, and even before that, making sure that our sponsors are fully aware of the importance and they're fully equipped on the talking points that they need to be successful.
Through the chair. Thank you, Robbie. Senator Smith, are you still there? Is he still there?
I believe so. His number is still there.
Yes. Yes,
Thank you for joining us when you should be. Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
I'm sitting
Yeah, so I'm a football mom. My son plays for Riviera Beach. So I understand where you're at. So, you know, this is not so important that you have to miss your son's football game. But I have one question for you. Didn't I see you recently, you worked with the town of Loxahatchee Groves for some appropriation for them? Is that with
Wrong book.
Ron Book?
That's
Did
who
you work with Ron Book, getting the appropriations for the town of Loxahatchee Groves? What is that?
I was working with Sean Pittman. I think Sean Pittman was working with Ron Book, and I was helping him out on that.
Okay, that's,
One thing that was mentioned, and it was mentioned before, a lot of us know each other and we'll chip in and help each other out. I mean, I a lot of work, but sometimes if a friend needs a favor, I'll pitch in and help out if I don't have anything in that basket. Hopefully I'll have something in that basket so I can work for you guys next year.
all right. Thank you, sir. I was just trying to put together the name and the face, so thank you.
I work with the city of Riviera Beach. I'm the general counsel for their CRA, so I'm out there quite a lot, working in the Riviera Beach area.
Okay.
Gentlemen, good evening and thank you. I just wanted to thank you because it sounds like you really did your research about what we're all about and some of the challenges that we're facing coming into this presentation, and I really appreciate that. That shows me that, you know, this is something that you're really interested in, you're knowledgeable of it, and you're concerned for our district. Like I said, the challenges that we're facing. So thank you very much for that and having that knowledge and experience of what we've been going through.
Absolutely. Thank you again for the opportunity on this. And it's an exciting, unique challenge all got going on. And like
Sure
I said,
is.
we'd love the opportunity to be a part of it.
Thank you.
All right, guys, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch.
Thank you all.
Yep.
Thank you guys, look forward to it.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Scarlett's gonna pull up.
Yeah, I believe the next group, Capital City Consulting, I think they're up and they're on.
Capital City Consultant, welcome, guys.
You guys.
Hey guys, you can hear us and see us okay?
Yes.
sir.
Awesome. Evening. Could you like to get off?
Yeah, there you go. Are you guys ready? Do you want to take a bit of a break? Or are you ready for us to get going?
I'm ready.
I think we can go.
We can go.
All right.
Can we
All right,
possibly
great. Well, we have,
see the full screen of them for a minute, just because? Or just, oh, you can't while you're sharing? Okay, all right.
Yeah, this is a PDF, not a PowerPoint.
Yeah, the file was too big to send in a non-PDF form, so sorry about that.
That's all right.
All right, well, really appreciate the opportunity to present before you guys. Jared and I will introduce ourselves. Jared and I prepared a really, really large presentation. We will not go through every single slide, but it's an opportunity for you guys to go back and look at, the presentation, kind of see what we're all about, and kind of talk about some of the things about our firm. So just as a bit of an overview, if you want to go to the next slide. So a bit of an overview. We are Capital City Consulting, so my name is Andrew Ketchell. To my right, Jared Rosenstein.
Hi.
We'll talk about where Jared sits in the firm as far as the Fort Lauderdale office. I am based in Tallahassee. I run the firm's environmental practice, so my almost entirely environmental with some local government work as well, and some other kind of legislative, the general type projects. I spent many years inside the Rick Scott administration, both working in his office as well as time at DEP, where I was their legislative and policy director. But our mothership is in Tallahassee. We have 17 full-time lobbyists, actually now officially 18 full-time lobbyists. We just hired somebody that was high up in the Office of Policy and Budget in the governor's office. We have been in existence, I know it says 17 years there, but it's closer to 20 years, and we have a huge client base. We're a bit different than the other two firms that you guys interviewed. We're big. We're a big firm with a lot of clients, a lot of people, and with that, we think comes quite a bit of political clout and political acumen that we've put together over the last 20 years, and we're very proud of it. So, highly specialized in appropriations work. We have pulled down literally billions of dollars in appropriations over the years, and it's not atypical to get several $100 million for our clients year after year after year. We've been very successful in that space. We're very proud of that. So next slide. We can go to the next slide after that. So government relations is kind of our forte. We've kind of built our practice specifically on a lot of legislative work over the years, but as of recent, we pulled quite a few folks from both the Sands administration and previous Scott administration. We have a very sizable executive practice, so both which Jared and I are actively involved in because of our past work in the executive agencies. Next, please. Political branding, this is just a slide, quickly, a lot of what we do is kind of the day-to-day lobbying activities, but political branding is a big part of that. We have to be able to clearly articulate who you guys are, what you do, to members and staff. That's a big part of it, and so political branding is a part of kind of our services. Next slide, please. We've covered this already. State appropriations procurement. We also have a very sizable procurement practice. Yep. The guy in the picture there, Ken Granger, was leadership in DMS and also worked in the governor's office, and he runs a procurement practice, so a lot of agency procurement work specifically. Next slide, please. All right, so locations, so we have several regional offices, Tampa, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami. I'll let Jared talk a little bit about that. Our mothership's in Tallahassee, but we have sizable local government practices and then people like Jared who, quite frankly, do both.
So, Jared Rosenstein, I run our Fort Lauderdale office. I travel back and forth between Tallahassee and Fort Lauderdale almost bi-weekly. During legislative session, I'm up here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I mean, I eat, drink, breathe this. This is my life. But out of session, I spend a lot of time in Fort Lauderdale. I'm from Broward County. Was born and raised in Dade, but my family lives in Broward, and I think highlighting our local offices is really important. It allows us to really have a pulse on the delegations when they return back from Tallahassee. So a great example is, it's one thing to lobby them in Tallahassee when you're one voice out of frankly 900 lobbyists in Tallahassee, but it's a different thing when you're back in the district and you can really reach out and touch them. That's why these regional offices and having the ability to go back and forth between them really have expanded our reach and our business across the state. So I'm proud to represent, we'll go through it, but a litany of municipalities, specifically in South Florida where I'm from, and splitting my time it's a fun logistical travel challenge, but it is definitely worth it during the session because you want to have a team up here 24/7, and then you want that team to go back into districts and meet with the members and keep developing those relationships because the legislators aren't in Tallahassee, 80% of the time.
All right, next slide, please. I think we get into some of our folks at this point. Services and expertise. I'll just highlight quickly that you guys are special district, you're unique, but we, quite frankly, are in every single sector of government. We continue to and have, including this last hire with Kaylee, pride ourselves in specifically hiring people with real experience. Jared worked at Division of Emergency Management. He worked in the House. Has tremendous political acumen. I worked in the governor's office, worked at DEP. We have former agency heads, former chiefs of staff, former government operatives, and we pride ourselves in that. We want to have people actually know what the heck they're talking about when they go in and meet with these folks. You guys can't always be in town. We need to be able to articulate the different policy initiatives we're working on. So, next slide. All right, so this is our team. Actually, ironically, next week we're taking firm pictures again because we've grown significantly even since this picture. But the next few slides are essentially our team members. The firm was founded by these two guys and two other folks, Nick Irossi and Ron LaFace. Both of these guys are legends. If you ask anybody in the business, almost everybody knows who they are. And they have built Capital City Consulting over the last 20 years and continue to be very involved. I can tell you that Nick and Ron are both here when they're not traveling. They're here every day. They're not checked out. They're very engaged. They have their own book of business that they run, and they're both young guys in their 40s. So I think that's it shows a lot to kind of what they built. So the next few slides you can kind of run through these a bit. We don't have to hang on to them, just to kind of see all the folks that work with Capital City. You can keep going through this. This is our Miami team. Yep, Tampa team, Justin Day. Jared's a Fort Lauderdale team. So yeah, that's Jared. So one of our work, you go to the next slide. So this is just a quick run through of some of our clients. Again, this is just a snapshot. I think the presentation actually said we have 175 plus, but I think we're over 200 at this point. So that's right. Again, we're in every sector. We represent local governments that probably won't be listed on that we can talk about. We also represent Hampton County Development Authority. They were removed as a part of the Disney debacle a couple years ago, and they hired us to kind of get reinstated, which we were successful in doing. So we can talk about our local government experience a bit. But if you want to just run through these slides briefly again, so you can kind of see, again, we're proud of some of these are brands that you guys recognize. Some maybe not, but just something that we're proud of. A lot of folks we're proud to represent. Strategic and approach and recommendations. At the end of the day, we don't have to necessarily reiterate what others have said. This game is kind of two parts. It's really understanding and knowing your stuff, going in, being able to clearly articulate the message in a very brief and concise way, and then it's really political prowess. Not to sugarcoat this thing, it's a lot about raising money. It's about political capital, frankly, that we have established over the last 20 years. But we are major fundraisers. So what that gives us is incredible access to the speaker and the president. Jared can talk about his experience with the governor. We were the first lobbying firm to kind of jump ship off the establishment candidate for the Republican Party before Ron DeSantis was a known commodity, and so we are kind of known as the DeSantis firm. So that helps us obviously with our sense of relationships and Office of Policy and Budget, all the folks on Plaza with the governor himself, his chief of staff, et cetera. But beyond that, we still have a sizable legislative practice where we're raising, literally millions of dollars, both for House and Republican leadership, and we raise money for Democrats too. So there isn't really a member that we can't touch and reach and get a hold of. And that access is a part of this process, whether you like it or not. You have to be able to get in, talk with these folks, have them pay attention to you, have them engage with you, and we do that well, we think. Next slide. I've covered that. We can go to the next slide. Same with this. So, since others touched on kind of the federal stuff and local stuff, we're really good at appropriations work. We're aggressive. We do it every single year. We've been very successful. I think a lot of the challenge has been over the years is the vetoes have been pretty hot and heavy. We've been pretty successful, and because of our relationships with the governor and his staff, avoiding a lot of that. And And, you know, in terms of federal relationships, you know, Jared can touch on this again. We have tons of federal relationships, and the reality is, you know, if we need to get to somebody in the Florida delegation where we can do that. You know, my brother's the chief of staff to Congressman Waltz in Jacksonville. One of Jared's best friends is Congressman Moskowitz, who he used to work for at DEM and when he was in the House. So the reality is we can get to that, we get to them if we need to. And same with on the local government side. I mean, Jared will be very involved specifically on your issues and knows, frankly, every county commissioner, you know, in Southeast Florida. I mean, that's just part of what he does. Again, that's part of, I think, what we bring to the table is we've been successful in knowing those folks, but engaging at the right level, I think, is important. Next slide, please. So we didn't know what the deal was, so we kind of put together a kind of a brief scope and a budget. So I know that maybe others didn't do that, and certainly we're open to having that discussion, but we go ahead and just put it out there for your consideration. Again, we can talk about that at a later date. I will say, just to kind of hit it at the head before we get there, in terms of making a decision, you guys, Burgess indicated that maybe you won't make a decision tonight, but maybe towards the end of October 22nd. To be quite candid with you, I think that's going to be too late. House proposals for appropriations are due November 14th. And if you all wait that long to hire somebody, it's going to be incredibly hard, if not impossible, to get something done in that period of time in terms of getting appropriations filed. So just a word of caution with that. Not saying you got to make a decision tonight, but waiting to the end of October, I think, would put any one of these firms in a bit of a bind. So that's the remainder of the presentation. We go into the kind of the brief scope and then a budget. And I also I've been doing a lot of talking. I want to give Jared the opportunity to chat a bit.
So we can close out on
yes.
this. You guys want
yeah, if you want to close out and go.
You want to see us?
Yeah, go
I want to see you.
Okay.
Okay.
So I wanted to just give a quick introduction about what I do. So I've worked in Florida politics my entire adult life. It's weirdly the thing I like to do, right? Since I was 12, I wanted to be a lobbyist, and people thought I was crazy for it. I went to Florida State, and at Florida State, I walked the halls of the Capitol and handed my resume out, and I got my first internship with Senator Ellen Bogdanoff, who some of you might know. She represented a sizable portion of East Palm Beach County. After working with Senator Bogdanoff, I worked with Representative Holly Raschine, who is now a Monroe County Commissioner, but she was a Republican from the Keys. And then after Representative Raschine, I worked with Representative Bill Hager, who passed away recently, but he represented Boca and that East Palm Beach, Delray area. So I kind of grew up in my formative political years and learning about Palm Beach County politics. So, of course, I have a really good relationship with Todd and Virginia. I've known them for a long time. But my career really started to snowball when I decided those are the three Republicans I worked for. I decided to take a job as a Democrat. So I'm Jared Rosenstein. There was a guy who got elected named Jared Moskowitz. I was like, hey, we have the same first name. And I worked for Jared Moskowitz. I was his legislative aide in the Florida House for close to 7 years. We did some major pieces of policy together. He represented Parkland, Coral Springs area, that North Broward section. And we worked on some pretty important things. One of the biggest things that we worked on in the legislature was the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas school shooting, right? That happened in our district. So I had a front row seat to writing that piece of legislation with Republican leadership. I was working for a Democrat. And it kind of put me in a unique position to be someone who straddles both worlds, right? It's one thing to raise a lot of money for Republicans, and it's another thing to raise a lot of money for Democrats. It's odd, because you'll just as likely see me at, a Hillary Clinton book signing as you will a Ron DeSantis event. It's the truth, because I have convictions that are all over the map. I'm a true NPA. What's interesting about that is Jared Moskowitz was then appointed to be the director of the Division of Emergency Management for Governor DeSantis. And he brought me along as his legislative affairs director. For the first couple months, it was pretty steady. Hurricane reimbursement, FEMA reimbursement, going to cities and counties all over the state, and making sure that their federal dollars that they were drawing down to pay for grants, to be reimbursed for hurricane response activities were actually being paid out on time, was a pretty big part of my job. And then COVID hits. And I'm the legislative affairs director for the Division of Emergency Management. I had to handle all the politics for COVID, and I had to try to do it in a, because disasters are not partisan, but very bipartisan way. And it was a pretty big milestone in my career.
A learning curve.
Oh yeah, I mean, we didn't know what we were doing, it's just the reality. I don't think anybody did. Actually, the testing site at the baseball field that you guys know about in Palm Beach County, I put that one together. And it was nonstop, 24 hours a day. I worked 400 plus days in the Emergency Operations Center at the EOC in Tallahassee. I directly reported to the governor, because under emergency, that's how that works. So it was Director Moskowitz and I, we basically fold up under the governor's office. We're not a true state agency, but we were a division of the governor's office. And it was pretty impressive. We got to save some people's lives and have a big impact on a historic response. I went to law school after I graduated from Florida State and continued to work in the legislature. And while in law school, I actually specialized and clerked at a couple law firms that did disaster work. So it was a really good symbiotic kind of relationship between what I did for Governor DeSantis and what I learned in law school. So I have two big specialties. One is emergency management, and the other one is municipal representation. And a lot of that goes hand in hand. And some people ask why, but when you work for emergency management, you have to know every city manager, every county manager, every county administrator, every general counsel, every mayor, every commissioner, everywhere, because they will call you when a hurricane is hitting or COVID is hitting. I sometimes, during COVID, would take up to 400 calls a day. And while I knew a lot of elected officials at the local level, that kind of blew my Rolodex up. I worked for Governor DeSantis for 2.5 years, and when I transitioned out of the governor's office, I came to join Capital City Consulting, and I wanted to do what I love, which is emergency management and municipalities. So I represent a lot of emergency management contractors and folks who do nonprofit work all across the country. But what I really truly love is municipal representation. So I represent, along with some of the other firms on this call, you know, some municipalities have teams. So Capital City represents the city of Fort Lauderdale, city of Coral Gables, city of Miami, the city of Palm Beach, Highland Beach, Miami-Dade County, Broward County, Hillsborough Beach, Monroe County,
Polk County.
It's a extensive municipal, Boca Raton, it's an extensive municipal list. South Miami, which we just signed. And all of those cities, why I like representing municipalities is they all have a different issue. And, I wanted to, I like advocacy is fun, but advocacy is better when you have 100 different clients, all with a different issue, and you have to balance all that. I love that, I live for it, right? But the one thing they all have in common is money. And that's what we've been talking a lot about today, appropriations. I have, as someone who came from the legislature, and then somebody who learned how to dole out federal money in the Division of Emergency Management, and now represents municipalities successfully for the last 2.5 years, essentially, I have learned and mastered the process of getting municipalities appropriations. And what do I mean by that? Let's use two examples in Palm Beach County. Boca Raton. Boca Raton had lots of projects funded in the legislature that were then vetoed by the governor. Not just Governor DeSantis, but Governor Scott as well. They took a new strategy, a new approach. They brought me on, and they've been very successful for the last 2 years on getting projects funded. Highland Beach is a great example. Highland Beach hasn't gotten an appropriation ever, I think since the city was incorporated. And they have filed appropriations every year. I got them their first one this year. They were super happy. So, you know, seeing a city get $250,000 that's really like 3 stoplights long, Maybe Highland Beach is tiny, and seeing like their faces light up and get to go to the check presentation, it's a really cool, rewarding feeling. Municipalities are just, they really get a bad rap up in Tallahassee, and I think they need effective advocates to fight for them. They get stepped on all the time, and I try to pride myself as a really honest broker and aggressive advocate, but I will fight for my municipal clients. I will fight for all my clients because I believe in the mission, right? So a lot of you asked about municipal representation. It is what I do 24 hours a day. Maybe not the week and a half when I'm getting married. I'll turn my phone off. But I do it most of the time.
Yeah, we're both, I will say this about Jared and I, we're both really lucky because we love the people that we represent.
Yeah, seriously.
I do a host of environmental things, all of which you guys have probably heard about or like, and that's fun because that's a good cause. Not everybody in this business, not every lobbyist gets to do that. Most folks are just kind of following, what's available and what's kind of the newest client. So we're both very fortunate that we get to represent people and organizations and municipalities that we really like. So I know it's getting late, so we don't want to take up a ton of time.
Happy to answer questions.
Yeah, questions if you guys have any questions, and appreciate the opportunity to present to you today.
So I have a question. Well, let me start with asking you, why would you choose to work for Indian Trail?
I mean, you heard my answer on why I like representing governments. I'll give you a good example on some of the issues that you touched on, annexation, taxing districts. Andrew touched on this, but some people just in this business, go along to get along, right? I like unique clients that have unique issues, and your litany of things that we would advocate for, they excite me. I mean, I get giddy about this kind of representation. It's weird. I mean, I don't watch ESPN, I watch C-SPAN, right? So, things like appropriations, things like fighting an annexation plan or approving an annexation plan. We've done both successfully at this firm, right? So it's what we literally do 24 hours a day. I mean, I tell Andrew this all the time, just because I have big, massive corporate clients, awesome, love them, they're fantastic. They're not as fun as my governments. My governments always it's a new challenge every day. And by the way, governments and taxing districts deserve to be represented just as well and as aggressive as those big companies. That's why, I mean, it's a no-brainer. I would love to represent you guys.
So, Jared, you have talked a lot about municipalities. Do you guys represent any special districts?
Yes, we represent the Hamilton County Development Authority. Yeah, they're a special district. I mentioned this in
Right, I did hear that.
part of my presentation.
Right, I did.
So they were included. Yeah, they were included in the Disney debacle.
Right.
And so they hired us. I guess it's been about 12 months ago to get put back into state law, which we were successful in doing last session. So that required a local bill. Local bills can be challenging, but you guys have a good delegation. Requires obviously delegation support to get that done, and so very familiar with the local bill process, how it works, how to get it done. We've done it before, and I think quite frankly, part of the challenge you guys are going to have is getting the right advocates on board. You don't always get to choose who represents you, and luckily after several years, those people leave and get a new set of representation. But sometimes it requires going outside of who represents you and you go into another section of the county or another legislator altogether within the region, right? So I've done that on appropriations work quite a bit, where the particular member's like, yeah, well, I'm the majority leader, I can't do it, or my bandwidth is too tight at this point, I can't do it. But we can get reach into any other member to get something done.
Do you think, how should I put this? Do you have, with any of the municipalities that you represent, do you think that there's any conflict that you would have representing Indian Trail in Tallahassee?
No, yeah, no, we don't. We wouldn't be doing this presentation if we thought that. So we've already kind of run that conflict check internally. You know, most of the local governments we represent, they have, you know, some policy things that they want to support through the league or through FAC, but most of it's just money, right? It's money that's independent to their particular county or city, and that's what we're going to go after. But no, we wouldn't be here if we thought there was a conflict.
90%, I would say 90% of our municipal work is appropriations, right? And, you know, that 10% is where it gets, you know, fun policy stuff. But the appropriations, the reason why municipalities get lobbyists is because the appropriation process can be a little hefty, right, to navigate. There's no conflict. And what's interesting is a lot of times our municipalities will team up and work together. You brought up an interesting point with one of the previous panelists. You know, could we make sure that Palm Beach County rows in the same direction as us? And the answer to that is unequivocally yes.
Okay.
So the other thing you're going to get with us is obviously a tremendous amount of political capital, but you're going to get expertise. That's what I mentioned before, especially on environmental water project stuff. It's what I do every day, and I can clearly articulate each project, how it works, where it goes, and on the back end, once it's appropriated and approved by the governor, working with DEP or the water management districts, FWC, wherever it goes, to get the money dispersed quickly. So that's pretty unique. It becomes more than just a political kind of hot potato that you're putting out there for funding. I'm able to articulate those particular projects, and obviously Jared is very good at kind of packaging them up as well. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
Through the chair. Is that, are y'all in Fort Lauderdale or Tallahassee?
Right now?
Yeah.
Tallahassee.
Where?
I'm flying for Lauderdale tomorrow morning.
I was hoping that you had a nice office like that local for us. My questions are kind of,
We do have that. We have, maybe not as big as ours.
No, it's a little smaller.
Yeah.
But actually, something you bring up a good point. When you guys come up to Tallahassee, mi casa su casa, right? Like our clients can utilize our entire office space. We have a beautiful building right downtown. You know, it's a good place to work out of. And I think it'd be really important for them, you know, the first week of sessions, Palm Beach County days, right? That's a great time for you guys to come up and, you know, work the delegation. But, you know, it's a good time to network also with your local county commissioners. Everyone in Palm Beach County comes up. It's a packed room.
well, my comment more toward your nice office there is, I want local representation. So I want to know that we have someone in our backyard that we can work with when we need something done. Some of the things
Yeah, that's why.
a couple of the things I'm really interested in, and I'm gonna get back to one of Betty's good questions for you guys especially. As far as local bills, I mean, some of the stuff that we're very interested in is getting a bill across to give our residents an opportunity to decide their own future if they want to incorporate. So we need help with that. We need help with appropriations, like one of the last people that interviewed here talked about not only local funding appropriations, but state as well as federal. I want to know that you can help with all of that. And my last question, and then you can answer all three questions, is my one negative is, and Betty very eloquently stated this in the beginning with the first client, why do you want to work for us? You have 175 clients. We're small potatoes. I want to make sure that we don't hire a firm that winds up putting us at the bottom of the stack. So now you can answer my...
Fair point, yeah, of course.
All right, let me work backwards on that. So to answer your first question, that is the number one thing that comes up, which is you guys are big, you're powerful, you got a lot of political capital, you raise a bunch of money, you got a bunch of very important, Fortune 500 company clients. The reality is you can take it one of two ways. You can take it that we're selling you a bill of goods and we're gonna get you on retainer, and then we're gonna kind of sell you up the river. But the reality is what you're getting is a big firm with a lot of juice that can get things done. So there's gonna have to be a trust factor associated with that, to say that, yeah, I trust you guys, that you're gonna give us the appropriate amount of attention. We have a lot of people that work here. Jared and I would be the two people that you would be interfacing with the most, because of our backgrounds. Obviously, Jared running the Fort Lauderdale office, being in your backyard, that's a big part of it. And that's my honest answer. At the end of the day, that's what matters. Getting things done in Tallahassee, there are plenty of small boutique firms that have, 10 clients or 20 clients or 30 clients, but in my experience, it's moving the opposite direction, which is having a big firm with a lot of juice. These things are super political. You
What-
gotta have access, and that's what we find.
With a lot of what?
Juice.
Juice, okay.
Yeah.
Juice, political juice, yes.
Get
Yeah.
the juice.
Just through the chair, if I may. So I would not have brought you anyone if I thought they would have ranked us or not treated this board correctly. I spent quite a bit of time going over this board, the history, truncated history of the district. So I don't think you have to worry about that with Capital City or any of them, but specifically with
Okay, 'cause
them.
they're
Yeah.
big, they're,
Yeah,
Sound
they
very
are
large.
highly reputable and all of that. And I'm not advocating for them, but I just want you to be aware
Right.
so.
that I would not bring someone like that.
What about my last two? So we won't be put at the bottom of the barrel, even though we're small potatoes?
No,
So, the other two?
no way.
Okay, good.
Jared's chomping at the bit. Look at, he wants to get working on our issues today.
And the other two things is the appropriations and us with the local bill for incorporation, or at least let our residents vote on where they wanna go.
So I'll touch on the appropriations piece, but I want to go back just for a second to the body
Big firm.
Yeah, big firm. Highland Beach is, I think, 4 stoplights. They are a microscopic municipality. Realistically, I do think it is one of my smallest lobbying contracts. But the pride that I got from getting them an appropriation outweighs that 100 to 1. Like, I'm a geek about this, right? So you never have to worry about being on the bottom of the barrel. We treat every single client like they are a Fortune 500 company, period, end of story. There's no hesitation. So now let's go back to, let's jump to the appropriations question. There's more money than just state level appropriations. While you guys may be familiar with filling out a form, having a state senator or state representative file it, wait for it to get heard in Tallahassee, wait for it to get in the budget, wait for it to move out of the budget to the governor's desk, and then wait for it to get vetoed. Sure, that is one of the process that you can go through. However, Hurricane Loss Mitigation Program out of FDEM, money out of the Department of Commerce, which used to be called DEO. DEP has grant programs. There are tons of funding opportunities for entities like yours across, not just at the state legislative level, but at the state agency level, right? So now we're talking 2 different levels of funding, okay? At the federal level, right, Jody Davidson, who was your first presenter, who was a friend of mine, both from Broward County, again, we all know each other, she's correct. There are federal programs that you can tap into. But honestly, realistically, what's going to, using my basic knowledge and Andrew's basic knowledge, what's going to be effective and work for you will be state level funding, getting something funded in the GAA, which is the General Appropriations Act, right? That's the budget for Florida. And then getting other projects funded out of state agencies, DEP, Division of Emergency Management, and let's talk about the Division of Emergency Management because that's what I know. After a hurricane, projects, raising roads so they don't flood, hardening buildings, right? All of that money is available. It's having experts like us who can counsel you on how to tap into that program that is key. So you're right, there's a litany of funding avenues. I think the realistic ones are state grants and state legislative appropriations for you.
Yeah, and the same with DEP, you know, again, that's, you know, where it came from. DEP has expanded over the last, they've always been a pass-through agency, meaning they get money from the legislature and it passes through to, you know, the end game, which is typically local governments or NGOs. But their grant programs have grown significantly over the last 5 years. So that's become more of a focus. Again, just like Jared, those were all my friends. The Secretary of DEP and I were colleagues when I was at DEP, so I've actually talked to him today. So again, part of it's access, part of it's the right strategy, part of it's the right counsel on when, how to put things together, and that's all the things that we're going to provide.
That's right.
And the last thing about our local bill, to lobby for us
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, so I touched on that a bit. We've run local bills, we do it all the time. We ran one specifically on a special district in Hamilton County last year, so very familiar with the process, know how it's done. It requires the delegation to vote on it, bring it before the legislature, then it becomes just a normal bill that's voted on as a package from the legislature. So very familiar with that, we know how to do it. We've been successful at it and have a track record of that.
And I've actually worked on behalf of the city of Boca Raton. They had a local bill last year out of the Palm Beach County delegation amending their airport authority. And I've known Vicki Nolan for a decade. She's the executive director of the delegation. We worked hand in glove on that. And so, again, local bills are something that is totally not foreign to us. You know, we do them every session. I mean, it's without a doubt.
I think Vicki left, didn't she? I thought I saw
No,
that she had left.
Recently,
Yeah.
probably.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I
She-
think,
I got an email from her saying
Oh,
that
really?
she got
Oh.
the local bill.
because I was looking on the website and she was not on there when I was looking for who the executive director was.
Well, thank you guys.
Or thank you.
There any other questions? It's getting late, I know.
Yeah.
No, I think we're good. Thank you, guys.
I appreciate it.
All right, thank you all.
Of course, we look forward to hearing from you guys.
Thank you.
Thank
I'll
you.
be in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Did you have anything, Burgess, before we move on, or?
Well, just on that, you know, I think if you want, we don't have to wait till the 25th. You could give us staff direction for legal to negotiate with a certain dollar amount, you know, that you
Just
feel.
hire all three and.
Well, that's something you can do budgetarily. You know, may be a little difficult, but
They're
yes.
all good.
Yeah, yeah, as I said, tried to bring in people that weren't necessarily representing other Palm Beach entities.
Interests,
You can't get all, they're gonna be connected, at least one or two of them, as you can tell. And I tried not to get people that were necessarily representing a lot of special districts.
Right.
So we would be kind of the only enchilada
Should
that
we
they
vote
have.
like 1, 2, or 3? Who votes for 1, who votes for 2, who votes for 3?
I think you guys just make a decision who
And
you
just do
think can
consensus.
best fit, you know, clearly they all have brought home different successes to their clients, you know, so something you kind of have to look at, you know, probably Rubin Group has a little bit more at the federal level, but so does Capital City, Tripp Scott, so they all
Right.
kind of touch the bases. So as each of them said, you can't go wrong with whoever you select. But, you know, it probably will be more. I believe David Rambo and Associates was approximately, I think, 4,500 plus miscellaneous fees or costs, you know. It's gonna probably be more than that. Because you're dealing with heavy hitters here.
So-
But you're paying for the political capital.
Right.
And you're getting their political capital. So you have to make that decision.
I liked TSC. I think their presentation was more about us. I like the fact that they work with Sluggett. I think that's gonna be critical for us because they can work on the county level where Sluggett is in tandem with what we need from Tallahassee. Like, I wish Sluggett had people in Tallahassee, and then we could just have everything together, but they already work together. I think that's great. Their presentation, I think, was the most about us.
I thought they were the worst, to tell you the truth.
Really?
Well,
Yeah.
just,
And he was also a little bit negative on corporation.
Well,
Because,
not for
I think he
nothing.
said it was gonna be.
I don't, I think any one of them will be able to work with Sluggett. I think that Jody had talked about having worked with, county and Sluggett. They all work together in one way or another, so I'm not concerned about that. We already have our local representation. I think all of them will be able to do that, and work with the county and work with, whoever. But it's more about who's gonna be able to move our issues, who's gonna be able to get, because our issue has not been, we get our appropriations all the way through, and then we get to the governor and we get vetoed. Every single year, there's an excuse, there's some reason, and we need somebody that's gonna get it across that finish line, because we get there, for as long as I've been on this board, every single year, we get there. And, then can't get it
Done.
any further. And yet, there are other municipalities that get funding every single year without having to work very hard at it at all, without a blink of an eye. So, and some of that, I think, is making it a priority for the county, even though more so than paying it as lip service. It's going to be, the county lobbyists, the county staff, the county commissioners, really understanding and recognizing why we need this money. It's not, we're not, it really frustrates me because, and you guys have all heard me say this, right? Municipalities have so many different funding sources and ability to raise money. And us as a special district, it's solely on the backs of our residents. We're paying for things that municipalities are getting shared tax revenue for in lots of different things. We're not getting our share of the money. So it really, to me, is a slap in the face. When we go to Tallahassee, we are the people that they should be helping give some of that tax money back to, because the municipalities already have their avenue to get tax revenue streams back to them. Special districts do not. That's why I asked that question about the federal funds, right? Because if we have someone that can go after funds at a federal level and at a state level, and yes, they go hand in hand, but maybe we have the ability to get funds from the federal level that we couldn't possibly get now. Or at least work on that, work towards that. So
Based on what you're saying, and these last guys talking about emergency management, working with those, I would
Yes.
lean toward the Capital City group.
yeah,
I am worried that they're so big that we would be kind of neglected, where the first one, they don't have a lot of clients, but based on their the presentation was very professional too, the third one, so I would vote for Capital City myself.
I liked Reuben and Turnbull as well.
Me
Mind
too.
you, we've only met Jody, but I've met with other Reuben and Turnbull, and I think you have as well, right? Up in Tallahassee, we've met them. So I would be comfortable with them too. I think that,
Those
they-
are my two picks,
Yeah.
actually.
The only thing that concerns me about Capital City is I just didn't hear enough about getting sort of local bill or any kind of bills beyond, there's a lot of focus on appropriation, and that's important to us. It's probably a priority over everything else, because, you know, even a local bill, if we talk about incorporation or a referendum, at the end of the day, if the residents don't want that and they vote that down, if we have a appropriation mechanism in place, then, you know, we're offsetting that, so.
Yeah, they kept talking about that Hamilton, or whatever, special
Highland.
district. No,
Well,
he kept on about that
Oh,
one that
Hamilton
they.
County from Disney?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But still, that's one that they've been involved in, so they do have experience in it. I just didn't hear enough about, but again, you need the same connections in Tallahassee, you know, whether it's appropriations or it's a local bill, it's just, there's a few more nuances, I think, relating to actually passing legislation, the local bills, and I think, Jared talked a little bit about that and has some experience with that. And having worked in the governor's office, certainly, you know, that gives,
Yeah.
that gives
Yeah.
a level of connection there.
And working
As
on
long
both
as we
sides.
keep
And really,
keep
I think-
DeSantis in, it would be great.
Right, and what we need is actually to get that attention so that it trickles down, because that's, I think, where a lot of, the roadblocks that are in front of us are at, right? You gotta get to DeSantis, so.
So,
Yeah. One of the things I don't think Ruben, Ms. Davidson explained is, Bill Rubin actually is on the governor's presidential campaign. He was on both DeSantis's gubernatorial campaigns, both of Rick Scott's gubernatorial campaigns, Rick Scott's U.S. Senate campaign, but she wasn't really asked that, so it's not something that I think they'd throw out there. So you have that from the Rubin group. Same thing with Trip Scott, Jim Scott, and Chris Smith. I worked with Chris Smith indirectly, because he didn't necessarily represent us, but we, when he was a senator and in the House, we dealt with him a lot, and he has a lot of respect up there among the House and leadership. Not sure what his relationship would be with Governor DeSantis, but I do know Jim Scott would have some level. 'cause he's
And that's
Republican.
important, right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just to
Oh,
get to
I-
leadership, that's where our problem
would-
is now.
I would feel very comfortable with Ruben Turnbull too.
I'm fine with any of it. I mean, based on their track record in the past, I mean, just anything new and different.
Right.
I mean, it's not like we're committed to them for life
I
either.
mean, we could always put together a powerhouse team next year or the year after. We could plan for something if necessary. But we need to make a decision this year and move
Yeah,
forward with
next year
something.
again.
Yeah,
I like
Yeah.
TSE. I felt like they, when they were speaking, they brought up several different special districts that they work with.
Who's that?
TSE. I think they said with the Children's Services, they had a drainage district in Broward County.
Tyndall Hammock.
Are they the ones that were,
Yeah.
Collins
Foreman.
Foreman, the Foreman family, that's their district.
were they the ones on the, working with the county on the court levy?
I don't know.
Well,
The
they-
main thing I
they
got
do lobby
from
for the
TSE
county,
is
so-
they worked with firefighter district, and that's, my problem with FASD. It seems like they're a firefighter district. That's what the F stands for.
Mm.
I did like Capital City also. Ruben Turnbull was, okay. I felt like the other two came with a lot more information in their presentations were pretty informative.
Yeah, in the one sense, being here in person is more personable, and you feel like those that are on Zoom would be a little at a disadvantage, but then on the other hand, they relied more on doing, on their presentation, and talking rather than being in front of us, so.
Well, they had a visual to show
Yeah.
us their team.
I think
Right.
she
And
did
it's-
too,
and-
but it wasn't,
Did she?
it wasn't very much, yeah.
Because then TSE like showed us the specific people
What
that would be
was the
working with
PowerPoint for
our.
Right.
Ruben group?
I had it, but she didn't let me know next to where she was.
Yeah,
Right.
because I think it
I
started
think
getting
it started-
bombarded.
Yeah.
Right,
And
I
we
think,
kind of jumped off the,
yeah, so in all
diving
fairness,
board
I
there.
think,
Okay.
you know, she did have one.
Can you just put
But-
it up real quick? Let's just see what it is. I'm not trying to advocate for them, but
No,
out of
but I
fairness.
think
Yeah.
that there's a discrepancy when you've got one here in person
Yeah.
and then
And the
two
other two.
on Zoom. It's a disadvantage for both, because it's not even.
I think that Capital City is the one that showed us like pictures, you know, they went through the
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah,
of
all the
all the
different
different
people.
people
Yeah.
that's there.
I feel like their presentation was more about them than us.
Correct. I agree.
Well, that's what I was saying about,
Well,
being
they're
too
selling
big.
themselves.
Right, right.
I felt like
I
I
already
was
know
in-
about us.
I
I
felt-
don't need to be told.
felt I was
Well.
sitting with,
I didn't mean it like that.
Markle or whatever in
Right. You want-
suits.
Yeah, because I think.
Meghan
so,
Markle.
yeah.
Yeah, we didn't see it.
Heather's
Yeah, 'cause-
been very welcoming to us. We actually have used her office a couple times when we've been in Tallahassee. Just,
Who's that?
For Rhonda?
yeah, it's like right there on the main drag. So we stopped there a couple of years ago.
Burgess, are they all firms, law firms, or with, as?
They're a
what's it-
mix. They're
All
not-
of them? Okay.
Yeah, Tripp Scott's the only true, what would be a law firm.
Okay.
But TSC is the governmental branch of their firm, but it's its own entity, company.
The one question we didn't ask, or I didn't really hear from Ruben and Turnbull, Jody, was, well, she kind of said we'd have the whole team, right?
Yep.
And then Capital City, it's those two, plus there are 17 lobbyists that they have, or I guess they're included in that in Tallahassee. We get the benefit of the whole team, but they'd be the,
They'd be
The
the people
front
that are
line.
ones down here. And that's what I kept asking, because I think
And-
Ramba really didn't have anyone down here, did he?
well, yeah, I mean, Ramba did. Ramba had a team, and
But in South Florida?
not here, but he's in Tallahassee. He's representing us in Tallahassee. He had a team there.
I get
We're not talking about him, because this isn't about him really. But TSC had 4, that would be the team
Primary.
that they were talking about, yeah.
I think I like that. I like that they would have, they've already figured out who's working with us.
Mhm.
I think I would go with TSC, to be personally honest, so.
Well, you know, again, I'm not trying, I just wanna make sure you're all understanding. It's not about the personal touch, it's about
What they can get
their
done for us.
influence.
Yeah.
So they all kind of have it, but you just make sure you keep all that in mind too. So, because Capital City certainly has it, they have clout. Yeah, probably one of the questions, I didn't want to jump in there, I thought I was already stepping over, is, you know, what's your relationship with Sugar? Because that's a major player here.
That's
And-
probably one of the first ones I
Yep.
noticed, that,
Yep.
when I looked them up earlier,
Yep.
Ruben, they were Crystal.
Yep, and Capital City, they also represent out here, so
Who did they represent out here?
I
Or
believe
the
they.
FPL was one on there.
Yeah,
FPL
I
was on
believe they
one of them.
represent, I thought they represented US Sugar, maybe
But-
not.
FPL is probably on all 3 of theirs, so not for nothing.
So anyway, but you guys need to make a decision.
Can we have a break?
Yeah, sure.
Because I just need to think, like, with a cigarette.
I think better
Need
with
some
a cigarette
yeah,
too.
nicotine, huh?
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes?
Aye, 5 minutes.
I'll take a Coke if you're gonna get one.
Yes,
Recording
ma'am.
stopped.
Please.
You know I always get the one.
I knew you were
But
going
now
to,
you're
that's why
so
she
far away
asked.
from me.
The sugar.
I'll make a motion to go with Reuben Turnbull and Associates.
I'll second that.
Do we need public comment on this?
You can ask for it.
Is there any public comment here?
All the
Any hands
public
are-
that is present.
Steve,
What are
question.
your thoughts?
no questions?
There's nobody has their,
No one has their hand raised.
I don't believe so.
All right. Seeing no, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I don't know.
All right.
It's so hard.
I don't know. They didn't impress me that much.
I feel this, I
Well,
kind of
it's-
feel the same way.
Well, it was 3-2.
I'm
I
gonna
mean, we
say
can
no.
always fire him next year and go with someone else.
Oh, my God.
Well, I think we
have to be
need to
so
do more than
crass.
that, but I mean, it's gonna pass, but I'm gonna say no.
They were my top two, in the top two for me.
All right, that's
Uh,
it.
So do
3
you
to
want to give us direction
2.
then to
Negotiate.
work with Burgess and that firm to try to get a proposal together for you?
Yeah.
So, do you need a motion for that?
I'm sorry, Elizabeth, did you vote yes or no?
I think I'm a no.
So, but 3-2.
Yeah.
So, just along the lines of what I was saying, I like every single one of them. And I hope that if they're still watching, if there's a way for us to partner in the future, but we have to make a decision because we're a short time frame right now. And actually, Capital City was the only one that talked about that, wasn't it?
They all talked.
They all talked about
Yeah.
that, okay.
They said they all know each other, have
Yeah.
worked across the aisles with each other on bigger
I
legislation.
wanna say it was Reuben and Capital that both said they worked with Pine Beach, so, which I thought was interesting.
That's really small compared to us.
Okay, I make a motion that we direct staff to negotiate a contract with Reuben Turnbull and Associates.
I'll second that.
Public comment, all in favor? Aye.
I think I stay with my.
Stick with my no.
3-2?
Yeah. Motion to adjourn?
No,
So close.
yeah. I believe there was just, one other thing, I don't see it on here. The, issue dealing, just to give you an update, the other night, Loxahatchee Groves, because of the Wellington annexation, they took some action to start to oppose it, to work with, to reach out to the owners along that. And I don't know, there's not a lot of formal action you can take tonight, but I would like to at least get formal permission from the board so I can speak freely with Jim Barnes to find out what they really have going on there. Just not for December, but what do they have plans for beyond that? Are they looking to move west towards Arden, north towards our district, which is just north of Harlena? So
Did they have a future annexation map?
they may, but yeah, so, but I don't feel comfortable going and talking to them even at a staff level at this point.
Do we need a motion for that?
Well, just,
Get
well,
consensus or.
that's fine, but
yeah.
that is on the agenda for October 10th.
Oh, okay.
It's a-
Yeah,
it's
that's
a-
right. I'm sorry. I jumped
Jumping
ahead.
ahead,
I was
so
like, I was
excited.
thinking it was.
He's like, where is it? I'm
Well,
sure.
no, because we were just talking about it.
We've been talking about it,
Yeah.
So do we have to
Sorry, I
wait
jumped
then
ahead.
until October 10th?
It's just on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
My apologies. I forgot.
So is that
You should have told me something slowly. You should have thrown your phone at me
I
or
was talking
something.
about Tetchy Groves,
You're
but
not close
there's
enough for me to
issues
see
with,
it.
well,
Yeah.
Telepathic.
We'll do a thing like.
Mhm.
Okay.
Anything
You gotta
else?
sneeze and say, stop.
I think that's it.
Yeah, no, that is it.
Motion
Yeah.
to adjourn?
Second.
Sorry.
That I'll have to go a second.
Very good.
I try to get around it before.
10:30. I told my husband
Summer
don't read no
Ridge.
more than 8.
JV team lost,
Sorry.
36-0. Holy shit.
Who lost?
The
Recording
Seminole Ridge
stopped.
JV team, 36-0.
That one hurts. At least
Yeah.
it's not like the Dolphins and
The last game they played, it was the reverse, so.
well, they're JV. I feel like that goes up and down. Yeah, Denver, yes. That was,
3 more points?
yeah.
They would have set a record.
Well, what's funny is I was talking to my husband about that, and he's like, yeah, well, they don't want that because, you know, they're driving up, and I'm like, they already drove it up 70-20. What was 3 points to get the record? He goes, but you don't want that? Well, guess what? The next week, the Bills spanked them. So they should have taken the glory when they could.
Yeah, no kidding.